I kind of miss doing these intros where I would like zoom out. You know, I'm gonna do that now again. Solange, When I Get Over. When I Get Home by Solange, the sister of, you know, the Bee. I'm assuming this is a direct sequel to A Seat at the Table, since the similarity in album cover and tracklist structure and the fact that the title of this album seems like a continuation of the sentence that's forming from the previous album, like A Seat at the Table When I Get Home. I feel like, is the next album gonna like complete the sentence, like a trilogy? I don't fucking... With When I Get Home, you can expect more of the same musically, you know, you're getting some very lavish, delicate keys, some really soulful, electro-funk inspired synth work, some really soft backing vocals, just like you got on A Seat at the Table. But now we have a star-studded lineup. The featured guest appearances, the credits list on this thing is insane. We have Panda Bear, we have Playboi Carti, we have Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, we have Gucci Mane, we have fucking Sampha, Metro Boomin, Pharrell. There are so many huge names on this album, it's ridiculous. I probably missed like half of it. That's definitely pretty enticing. I think most all of them contribute something pretty memorable to these tracks, and I think lyrically what we're getting on this thing is mostly just Solange reflecting on her life now that music has seen success. She talks about how she's seen her dreams become reality. She celebrates her upbringing in Houston and her culture on tracks like Way to the Show and Almeda, with references to candy painted cars and fucking Florida water and stuff. There is a very kind of inspirational and celebratory tone I get from the writing on this thing, but I think musically this thing is even more passive and subtle than its predecessor. I know it was a big complaint some people had with The Seat at the Table was that it was just a little bit too easygoing and kind of fell into the background a little bit. Yeah, this one does that more. The hooks on this album are very repetitive, the beats do follow suit in that regard as well, and again it's all just very passive and delicate in presentation, and Solange's voice is not the most booming voice, and it's quite relaxing and smooth, so I can definitely understand if you find this album a little bit too just kind of subtle and passive to really have that much of an impression on you. But I think generally all of this does come together to give the album a pretty hypnotic quality in some cases. However, I do think there are a few times where this album does kind of just feel a little bit too undercooked, but we'll get more into that later. Some highlights in the track list for me include the track Almeda, which I think is a really exciting and bouncy song, which features production from Pharrell and vocal work from The Dream and Playboi Carti, both of which contribute some really exciting stuff to the song, but it's really the instrumental that sells it for me. I love the really vibrant and jovial pianos. They just sound so full of life, so it just makes sense to have a figure like Playboi Carti, who's just such an animated performer, you know, it just totally fits to have him on this instrumental, and I think his verse is fantastic at the end. And The Dream's chorus I think is really infectious, and speaking of dreams, the song Dreams is really cool. It's more of a little interlude track. It's pretty short. It's just over 2 minutes long, but it's a nice, really beautiful song just about how dreams are possible to achieve. You can make your dreams come true. It just won't happen right now. It won't happen today. Your dreams will not come true today, but they will if you try and put the effort in to make them come true over a long period of time. Eventually they will happen. It's just sort of a song encouraging you to sort of pursue your goals, you know? I thought the song Time Is was a really wonderfully tranquil and serene, powerful ballad featuring Sampha, and I think the chemistry between Solange and Sampha, just like the collaborative song they had on the last album, is fantastic here, and I think there's just a certain like lingering uncertainty to these lyrics that I think is really beautifully portrayed and conveyed through the vulnerability of Solange's voice. Now, there's a part around 2 minutes and 12 seconds in where the piano just kind of picks up in intensity and just gets really inspiring, and at that point, oh my god, my heart just flutters. There are these kind of choppy interludes kind of sporadically spread throughout the album that are produced by Standing on the Corner. I thought a couple of them were actually quite thought-provoking, these two in particular. This one's sort of talking about creative limitations and how Solange doesn't want to be sort of pigeonholed or boxed into one thing, you know, she doesn't want to be a singular expression, she wants to sort of explore all the capabilities she has, and then you have this one which is more about just kind of pondering the reason we're all here, why we're on this earth, and what we're here to do. Both just sort of had me stroking my chin a little bit, I guess. Some pretty nice thought-provoking interludes, but unfortunately with this album the execution of a lot of these songs just feels a little bit undercooked, like I said earlier, particularly these tracks. Down with the Clique, Binz, My Skin, My Logo, Beltway, Stay Flow, and Way to the Show all feel a bit hollow in my opinion, and I think a big part of the reason why is because the instrumentals are just not that memorable to me. I don't really think there's many musical ideas on display with these tracks that really prick my ears up, and Solange as a vocalist just isn't isn't really quite enough of a really like striking presence to really carry these songs for me, so they just end up leaving no impression. Like the beat on Down with the Clique, it's nice, but it just gets stale really quickly, and the lead melody on Wait to the Show, I just think it gets really tiresome. The whole like that gets played throughout the entire song, and it just gets to a certain point where I'm just like, nothing really interesting is happening on this track. And I think Way to the Show, to be fair, does have one really cool moment near the end where there are these like gun cocking sound effects like laced into the beat, which I think sounded really sweet. But Solange isn't really making the kind of interesting, powerful, and strong statements of black empowerment like she was on the last album on this record, so there's nothing really massively interesting about her writing on this one. Not that she has to be singing about that all the time or anything, but there's nothing really to replace that with the same level of impact necessarily. The lyrics mostly just kind of read to me as a bit fillery on this album, unfortunately. My Skin, My Logo especially, this track just felt completely improvised, and Gucci Mane's feature is probably the worst feature on the whole album too, in my opinion. The songs Binz and Beltway are just absolute filler to me, especially Binz. Beltway was quite lovely and pretty and smooth and delicate, but it didn't really have enough ideas to really justify its presence on the track list. It doesn't really have anything to say, nor does it really do anything to differentiate itself from the other songs. Stay Flow and Down with the Clique both just kind of float by without leaving much of an impression, like I said before. And Stay Flow, I do think the kind of bouncy keys on this track are pretty interesting, but it's just not enough to save the song. And the track Sound of Rain, not even Pharrell could really save this track for me. It's pretty catchy, but I don't know, Solange just sounded a little bit uncomfortable in this song to me, and I think Solange overall herself is probably the least exciting part of this album, unfortunately, of her own album. I think her voice has a really strong balance of vulnerability and assertiveness, and that really helped get across those kind of stronger statements that she was making on her last album. But here, since those statements are now gone, we're just kind of relying on the power of her voice mainly to carry these tracks, and I just don't really think it's enough a lot of the time. So overall, I'm gonna go with a 6 out of 10. I think it's okay. I think if you really loved the last one, you should definitely try out this one, because there are definitely a lot of similarities between the two, but what I managed to extract from that previous album, I didn't really get in the same capacity on this one, so I don't really feel fulfilled in the same way by it, but I do think it's still worth trying if you were a huge fan of that previous album. And yeah, that's everything I have to say on this new Solange album When I Get Home. Hope you enjoyed my review, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!